All right, guys, welcome to the Titans Ever On very first podcast that we've done. I am joined today by my two brothers. Got my older brother, Michael Lytle, with the Titans hat on.
Can you hear my foot massager going on in the background?
And he's got a foot massager.
I thought I heard a small child yell.
I think that was a big child, but yeah.
And then my younger brother, David Lytle, is joining us all the way from California, so it's a lot earlier there than it is here in Nashville. And I'm Phil, so we're going to be talking Titans. It's halftime of the Chiefs-Texans game, first game of the season, so we figured this would be a good time to kind of go into our expectations for the season, particularly about the Titans, kind of what we think their season is going to look like record-wise, and a few other questions about what we think they did over the offseason and if they've improved from last year. So we'll just jump right into it. This is going to be pretty brief, probably about 20 minutes, and we'll get out of here. So let's start out. Guys, do you think the team got better in the offseason based on their additions and their subtractions? Do you think they improved? Or did they get worse?
Mike, I'm going to let you hit that one.
Yeah, I think they got better primarily because of their continuity. Not necessarily that they added – obviously the Clowney thing at the very, that just happened could be huge. But they also lost some good players too. So I don't know that they're just incredibly more talented than they were last year, but because it's such a weird season with no preseason and, I think it will favor the teams that didn't have tons of changes and their basic, whether it's coaching or players, they basically brought back most of the same people. So I think just because of that, that will favor them this year, even if their talent level is, still strong, but not necessarily way better than it was last year. That would be my take.
Phil, can you tell us who they lost, or at least marquee?
Marquee, obviously, they lost Jarrell Casey. That's a big one. He was obviously traded to Denver, and it was pretty much a salary dump. I mean, they weren't obviously unhappy with him as a player, or as a leader of the team. They just needed to free up some salary space. Logan Ryan was not re-signed as a free agent. He would have been. I mean, he was a important player for this team for the last few years.
Yeah,
I would say that I think last year, especially toward the second half of the season, I think it became pretty obvious that he really was no longer capable of matching up against any kind of speed when it came to receivers.
Butler getting hurt really hurt.
Butler getting hurt messed up the whole secondary, but it really kind of exposed Logan Ryan's weaknesses. Because up to that point, I think he'd had a good season.
Yeah. Ryan did have a big didn't he have a big interception in the playoffs?
He did, yeah. He did against Brady to finish off the game. But I think he's wanting to transition to a safety. And I think that's a really good move for him because he's a very smart player. He's physical. He could move into that position. But
his role here, especially the first part of last season, as a nickel corner, kind of what they called him or whatever, when you had your other corner set and was just perfect, and he was arguably having an all-pro type season.
Yeah.
He was doing a little bit of everything, and it was really good. But yeah, I agree. Once Butler got hurt, it was like he's not just a put him out on an island, guard the outside guy type corner.
Yeah, that's not what he can do anymore.
And so that hurt.
They lost Tajay Sharp. Obviously,
not too big a deal.
No,
not a bad player, but
and they lost Mariota, but also once again, not a big deal when you look at the whole scheme of the team and the way Tannehill took over. That you're losing a backup quarterback. Did you kind of downgrade backup quarterback with Logan Woodside versus Mariota? Yeah, but you're not keeping Mariota as a backup, so he wasn't going to stay here. So that's obviously one other loss, and I'm sure there's a few other guys, but nobody else that really kind of rises to the level where you're like, that's a guy that you'd want to replace. I think that Jarrell Casey obviously is the big one. That's the one that I think is gonna, at least fans are gonna look at that one as being the one that hurts the most. I really don't think they're gonna miss him as much as maybe fans think they will because of Simmons, his ability to take the next step, and then bringing in both Jadeveon Clowney and Vic Beasley if he can stay healthy and actually get his head on right.
Yeah,
so. But yeah, I think overall talent wise, I agree with Mike. I don't think they really. I wouldn't say that they necessarily took a lot of steps forward as far as talent on the team, but I don't think they really lost much, and they kind of changed some pieces around to where they have the potential to be better, because I do think Simmons has the ability to probably be one of the best defensive linemen that they've had on the team. I think he could be even better than Casey has been in his career, which is saying a lot because Casey's had a really good career. But I think the continuity factor is a big deal. I think especially with the way this offseason has been with everything going on, if you've got a lot of continuity with your coaching staff, with your players, that really kind of, I think, will set you up to a much more successful season. So that's a big deal.
So the way I would answer the question, it just kind of really hinges on, and I know, I guess the whole quarterback league thing is maybe overplayed, but to me it seems like if they can start the season with their quarterback confidently behind him, can they start off well, which we didn't do last year, and can they sort of ride, just improve week to week and then get better than last year. Obviously, like, getting better than last year means going to the Super Bowl as far as the end of it, which is of high expectations. But is it going to make that big of a difference to have Tannehill all 16 games as your, presumably if he doesn't get injured, as your quarterback? And I really don't know. He obviously played well last year. I just don't. I'm still not 100% behind. I have no complaints. I'm just saying it's not like he's ever been a top tier quarterback in this league. He had a good season last year, but he's not this upper echelon guy as far as franchise quarterback.
At least not yet.
Not consistently. I mean, he was last year while he played. Statistically, he would have been considered one of the top quarterbacks in the league, but that was 9 games out of the season, 10 games out of the season. So plus playoffs, which, I mean, he wasn't asked to do a whole lot in the playoffs anyways. So yeah, that to me, that obviously, I think Tannehill and how Tannehill plays will be that's one of the biggest questions going into the season. If he can play the way he played last year, then this team can do a lot of damage and have a great season.
And we haven't mentioned that they have a competent kicker now.
Yeah,
that helps.
I mean,
yeah,
that is an upgrade. And they had 2 games that they lost.
Yeah,
the Bills game and the Colts game early in the year because they did not have a kicker, or they did not have a decent kicker.
Yeah, as most people know, my feelings on Mariota, and I don't want to rehash it because this is not about somebody who's no longer on the team, but the entire dynamic of the season changes if they have a competent kicker the first half of the season, because they're probably 4-2 after that Denver game instead of 2-4,
right?
Because they probably win the Colts game and they win the Bills game. And even Mariota playing the same way he'd been playing, do they make the switch at quarterback at that point? Probably not. Like, everything changes. And so, I mean, in hindsight, it's probably better that they did make the change because Tannehill clearly played out of his mind and took that team on a run. But, I mean, it's crazy to me how, like, one thing can change the trajectory of the entire season.
Yeah.
And it's like just not having a kicker just messed up everything early on in the season, and then
Yep.
I mean, it was still a problem going throughout the season that we could never really get that figured out. But yeah, you hope that the guy's hip is okay because he's coming off of that hip injury. So
Right.
but he's been a good kicker.
But he's been really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of Mariota, you brought him up. So the real question is, did you burn all the love letters that you wrote him when he moved to Oakland? You kept
No, I
kept
kept him. Yeah, I kept him.
Just wondering.
Yeah, I've sewn them into my undergarments to keep them near to my heart. So the fire will never go out. Let's move on to the next question. And I think we could probably spend a lot of time on that one, but I don't want to get stuck on one thing since we have a limited time here. Let's just go ahead and put our cards on the table if you guys are willing to do this. What do you think the Titans' record will be this year?
I've said already in a couple places, but I think I'm saying 11-5. And I really think after the rocky start of last season with, we already talked about the kicker. You had Taylor Lewan suspended for 4 games. You had Saffold, high-priced O-lineman who was terrible at the beginning of the year, who figured it out. And then obviously with Marcus being inconsistent as well. They still were 9-7, but by the end of the year, they were clearly better than a 9-7 team. And the playoffs proved that. So, yeah, I think they're an 11-5, maybe 12-4, but I'm going to say 11-5 is where I think they'll land.
I don't want to copy you, but that was I was thinking 10-6, but then I thought about how bad Jacksonville is, and I thought, okay, Jacksonville is basically getting rid of anyone, so we should be able to have 2 wins there. I don't think the Colts are that great. They'll be okay. I mean, we have a decently tough schedule, but I think I think the Texans will still be, our biggest hurdle as far as winning the division. But I could definitely see us going. My leaning is 11-5 as well. I mean, maybe I kind of lean a little more to, somewhere in between 10-6 and 11-5. Maybe I'm a little more going to the 10-6 side, but anyway, I think the division is ours to be won, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always try to pick a range when I've picked what I think the record's going to be, and my range is always like a 3-game.
You didn't say we were allowed to do that. So.
No, I didn't. But I make the rules when I talk. So
yeah,
I'm thinking somewhere between 11-5 and 13-3. I feel like there's been a couple of seasons this year where I really thought a couple of seasons for the Titans in the recent history where I really felt like they were ready to take that next step. Like they were 9-7 and they were ready to jump forward and become one of those, the top tier teams. And they haven't done it. Now, last year they made the run and they got to the playoffs and they looked like one of the best teams. They still finished 9-7 though. And I feel like I've been waiting for it to happen. And there's always something that's affected it, whether it's injuries or whatever it is. They just haven't been able to kind of like get over that hump. I feel like this year that once again, it goes back to Tannehill. If Tannehill plays at the level that he played last year, this team should be an 11-win team, and they should win their division. I think if the Titans don't win the division this year, it'll be a disappointing year for their fans. And I think the team would have to be disappointed. I think you have to go into this season saying we're winning this division for the first time in who knows how long, and we're going to make a run in the playoffs. I'm not saying this is a team that should go into the season thinking we're going to win the Super Bowl because there's other teams that are really good, but I think they should feel like they're in the conversation to be one of those teams that could be the last 4.
Is 2008 the last division win?
Yeah,
yes, it is.
I think so.
Yeah.
I just Googled it because I had no idea, but
It's just
2008 was the year the Ravens beat us in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I went to that game. I froze my tail off. It was rough. and then to lose, it would have all been worth it, but it wasn't worth it.
Best team in the league that year.
Yeah, best record in the league,
Yeah.
and we lost to the Ravens.
Yeah, I don't want to think about
Filthy-
it. I had
filthy
a
Ravens.
stomach virus the night before, and I was puking my guts out the whole night. And then that morning, that day I'm watching the game, just sitting there on my couch, feeling like I'm about to pass out, watching like the worst game possible. So
Well,
it was awful.
in good news, we beat the Ravens last year in the playoffs.
Yep.
Yeah,
And I think a better Ravens team actually. I don't know.
Yeah, it felt like a little bit of poetic justice that we were able to knock them off when they had such a good team.
Yeah.
So okay, so cool. So we're all kind of in that range, 11-5, and we all feel pretty confidently this team should have no excuses. They should win the division. This should be a division-winning team, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't really see. I mean, the Texans are always kind of scrappy, and they could be in there. The Colts, to me, are a really big wild card because I really don't think Rivers has much left, but
I agree.
They're well coached and they have a good defense. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they can somehow pull something out. Jacksonville's a mess. So I think the Titans win the division.
I think Jacksonville is playing for the first round draft pick.
Yeah.
Or for the first draft pick.
Or he's
trying to drive away all their fans so he can sell the team or move them to London. All right, so I think the next question, there's a couple other ones that Dave suggested that we could do. I love this one. You guys can just give me a yes or no answer. Is Clowney going to help Byard break the interception record of 14 in a season?
That's my prediction.
I'm going to say no.
Clowney's going to put so much pressure on.
I don't think that's going to happen.
He's not going to break the sack record, but he's going to force so many errant passes that Byard just takes them all out of the air. No, I do. But that's kind of my fantasy.
I do ranges on my interceptions, so I'm going to say between 10 and 20 is what I think he's going to have.
That's just for Byard. That's not for the whole team.
No, that's just him, yeah.
Okay.
I was looking, speaking of Byard, and I don't have it with me, but I bought this magazine of like statistics for the NFL, and it had defensive backs ranked. And they had him at like 10 or something. And then I looked at their interceptions, and he had, in the last 3 seasons, he's had probably triple the amount of interceptions that any other or nearly any other defensive back in the league has had. Like, he is just like head and shoulders, interceptions wise, over the last few seasons, above any safety in the league.
Is this safeties or all
it was defensive backs that he was rated like 10th or something like that. I should grab the magazine, but it's downstairs.
Because cornerbacks aren't necessarily supposed to get.
Yeah.
If you're really, really good, they're not going to throw to you. Whereas safeties, that's kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
Part of your thing. Yeah, so that's interesting.
But he also has puts up a really great passer rating versus whoever he covers. Quarterbacks have low passer ratings when they throw.
Yeah.
And he has a great tackling percentage. I mean, when the top 100 NFL players list was announced and he didn't make the list again, which is just obscene, the fact that he's not on that list, which shows you that the players don't really know what they're talking about either. But a lot of Titans fans were putting out a bunch of information about him as far as his, like, kind of diving a little bit deeper into his stats. And I mean, it's just, he's any measurable, he should be considered one of the top safeties in the NFL. And somehow he's just kind of overlooked. And I don't really know why that is, but he is. So you guys think he's going to set the record, or Mike thinks at least there's a chance between 10 and 20?
I was kidding. I don't know. I hadn't really thought about that.
I don't think he will. I think he'll have a great season because I think he always does. And I think Clowney will, if Clowney plays up to his potential, he will. There will be more turnovers forced by the team. I really think there would be. That's what he does. He's disruptive. He makes big plays. He might not be like a 12-sack guy, but he's gonna blow up some plays and give your other players a chance to do something with the ball. So I think we're gonna end because we've got a few minutes left before we run out of time here. But let's end on the big question, which I think is the one that you have to answer if you're a Titans fan and if you think they can go far. Can this Titans team beat the Kansas City Chiefs? And let me add a little little bit to that question, that is assuming that you believe the Kansas City Chiefs are the team to beat in the AFC. Like, do we think Kansas City is going to kind of basically keep moving right along and still be the best team in the conference, or do you think that they may take a step back because of some sort of Super Bowl hangover or whatever? Is there another team that the Titans may have to be like, that's the team we have to knock off?
I think on paper, the Titans are the third best team in the conference behind Kansas City and Baltimore. And well, I mean, I agree. We've already said it. I think they should win the division. It'd be a disappointment if they don't. I think, they've got a really good team, and yeah, I think they'll be in the mix. If you're a top 3 team, then you could make a run to the Super Bowl. That's definitely possible, but I think Kansas City and I think Baltimore will both still be good. Kansas City, I think, brought back 20 of 22 starters. I think I heard that this week. And one of the ones they didn't bring back is they replaced with that rookie running back, Edwards-Helaire. And he looks really good. So it's like, they're just good. And Mahomes is amazing. And so it's hard to pick against them. And then Baltimore, they were 14-2 last year and were historically great by many statistical measures, and they added some pieces. So I think both of those teams will be very, very good. But I think because of the way the Titans play with the ball control and some of the things they could do, I think they could be right there. I'm not necessarily going to pick them, but yeah, I'm confident they could be there.
So zero confidence that they could beat the Chiefs. Is that what you're saying?
No, I said I think they'll be in the mix. I would not pick them over the Chiefs, though. I don't know what percent I would say, but
I think you're exactly right. The Chiefs, they were the best team last year. I think Baltimore was probably a better team than the Titans, even though the Titans were able to win. They do play a style that allows them to beat sometimes teams that in some ways are better. By the way, watching this game, both they look super rusty. It's weird watching. It's like a preseason game that actually counts, and without the scrubs in. But both teams just look so many bad plays, like missed assignments and missed blocks and all the rest. But at the same time, like the Chiefs they've still scored 24 against the Texans. They're getting it done again. They're finding the end zone. I think they are the team to beat. I think Baltimore is right up there too. I think with both of those teams, I feel like if the Titans played those teams 10 times, the Titans could win 2 or 3 times. Maybe that's all it's going to take, hopefully. But that's kind of the way I'm seeing it.
I'm just hoping that the way that the schedule breaks down and our division, their divisions and all that we can get like a 2 seed or or even a 1 where we don't have to play both of them. Maybe one of them slips a little bit, probably Baltimore, because Pittsburgh might be pretty good. So maybe they're like a 4. Anyway, so we can avoid maybe having to play both teams and only have to go through one.
We have a head-to-head against Baltimore right around Thanksgiving, so that's good.
So that can help. Yeah,
that might determine whether or not we get a better seed than Baltimore. Who knows? But
Phil, your thoughts?
I'm with you, fellas. I think the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are the best team in the conference. I think Baltimore will be really good still. I don't think they'll be 14-2 good.
No, I don't either.
I think they'll take a little bit of a step back from that, but I still think they'll be a challenge for any team to play. I think the Titans would be right there in that group, probably at the end of those 3 as the 3 best teams in the conference. Dave said that he'd pick the Titans to beat either of those 2 teams 2 or 3 games out of 10. Is that right?
Yeah.
I think I'd probably be closer to 4 games out of 10 with the Ravens, maybe 3 or 4 games against the Chiefs. So I'm splitting hairs there, but I think there's maybe a little bit better chance that the Titans could beat those teams than Dave's giving them credit for. But they are really good and they have a lot of talent. So it'll be interesting to see if the Titans can actually put it all together this year, because that playoff run was fun, but I'd like to have that playoff run start earlier in the season, where you're not like dreading every game, hoping they don't lose and get knocked out of the playoff run. And I want to see another Titans team that's like that 13-3 team from 2008, or the 13-3 team, the couple of 13-3 teams from when they made their Super Bowl run and the year after, where they're just better than almost every team playing, and it's clear that they're better and they're beating people up and they're winning games. And I mean, it's time. Titans fans deserve that. We need a team that's just going to go out there and dominate, exert their dominance on people. I like the way that one of the coaches, the defensive coaches, described Jeffrey Simmons, and he says he's trending toward violence. That's like the way he plays. I'm like, that is such a great. Like, I want the whole team to be trending toward violence. Like, let's just beat people up. And look, I mean, you look at the makeup of the Titans team. There are physical players all over the field. I mean, you've got one of the hardest to tackle running backs in the NFL, if not the hardest. Jonnu Smith statistically is one of the hardest to tackle tight ends in the NFL.
A.J. Brown,
is one of the hardest to tackle wide receivers. Corey Davis is no slouch himself. He's a big dude and can knock people down. I mean, you just have guys, and then their offensive line, Taylor Lewan and Saffold, and they want to hit people. They want to hurt people. I want to see them do that. I want to see them hit and hurt and just make a big run. And if they have to face off against the Ravens or the Chiefs in the playoffs, so be it, and to see what happens at that point. But I think it'll be an exciting season for them, as long as COVID can – that's the first time we've mentioned it. I think maybe not. Maybe it was mentioned about the offseason. But as long as that can just stay out of the way and we don't have 20 players from a team test positive and they have to shut the whole thing down, that is like my worst case scenario there. So
not getting COVID and dying yourself, but
no, I don't even care about that. I'm good.
but speaking, I
know where I'm going, so I'm okay.
It dawned on me as we were doing this that we're basically in agreement on everything, and I realized that's why ESPN has these shows with morons that come in and give these outlandishly stupid opinions.
Yeah.
Because so they can argue about things, because we're like, 13-3, or whatever.
We're a little too level-headed, maybe.
Yeah. It's like we need more fireworks up in here.
Is Patrick Mahomes already the best quarterback ever? Discuss.
That's exactly the kind of question. And someone would be arguing, yes, he is.
I mean, what does he have to do? What else does he have to do, guys?
No, I saw, I don't know what news source it was, but I saw an article where somebody wrote an article this offseason. Is Patrick Mahomes already a Hall of Famer?
Wow.
I don't even know what to say. Something that's stupid. Like, I don't care how good you were. Like, if you have to at least play for at least a certain amount of time.
Right.
Like, oh, I won an MVP and I won a championship. So yeah, I'm a Hall of Famer now.
So if he died in a car wreck, would he get it? That's awful. I mean, I like Mahomes. He seems like a good dude.
If he just had to quit like Luck did.
Right.
Would he?
But Luck quit because his career was riddled with injuries.
Well, he has a better chance if he just quit today than he does if he just is just mediocre. It's a terrible.
Yeah.
The rest of the way.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, if he just stopped now.
If he becomes an average quarterback, then he's not going to be a Hall of Famer. If he died today, I'm sorry, Patrick. But if that were to happen,
this podcast took a turn to the dark.
Then
that's why they don't have,
people like me
Those
on
kind of
ESPN.
show, right? Because then you start talking about people dying and having car accidents.
I could see I could see a case made for Mahomes being in the Hall of Fame if he
No.
you know
Well, Terrell Davis and Gale Sayers. Terrell Davis and Gale Sayers are probably the two, like, short career, but bursts of greatness type guys that are in.
But they both had. I mean,
But they both had more than 2
they had
years. Yeah,
more than
I mean,
2 years.
yeah.
I mean, he's
But that
played
would be
started for 2 years,
right. He started one game
and
then
they've been
two,
great.
and then two. Yeah.
But I mean,
are we are all in agreement that Henry's in the Hall of Fame though, right? Like that is
Yes.
like
Yeah. He said 4 years. So
I mean, yeah, Gale Sayers right there.
Yeah.
So.
yeah.
oh gosh.
Okay, we got like 2 minutes left. I see our clock's ticking down. So last question that doesn't matter. What's more likely to happen on Monday night? Henry runs for 150 yards or Tannehill throws for 300?
Henry.
I'm gonna say Henry too.
What gives you the better chance to win?
I
I
mean, go ahead.
I don't know Denver that well, so I don't know
Good defense.
the keys to beating Denver, but so I'll let mine
They
go.
have lost Von Miller, so their
I
defense.
don't know which one gives you the better chance. I just think if Henry does it, it means we probably won the game.
Probably.
I mean, correlation doesn't equal causation or whatever, but yeah.
Right. Little over a minute. Do Titans take the home opener? Sorry, the season opener in Denver. You guys think they win it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you've got to beat Denver. I mean, like those are you might be able to lose to some of the better teams, every once in a while, but you got to beat a kind of mid-range team like Denver. Those are the games they just have to go in and win. And I think they are that team that can do that. They got to take care of business against the bad teams like the Jacksonville, but like the Colts and the Broncos, those are the kind of teams that are like they're not top tier teams. Let's just take them out.
All right.
I know the line. I mean, not that I'm a sports gambler or anything, but as far as our listeners know, but I know the line. Like the Titans were favored earlier in the week, and now they're a 2.5 point underdog in that game.
Really?
Yeah, like the line has shifted. They weren't like a huge favorite, but
we got 10 seconds for our 40 minutes.
Which I think
money
means
on that.
that
Put some money.
Which
on
I think
that.
means that a lot of people were backing the Titans, so they had to move the line in order to get people to back Denver. So
yeah,
I feel like most people think the Titans are gonna, I think I have that right. I hope I don't have that backwards, but if I do, edit this part out.
No, we're leaving it all in.
We're gonna edit out
All right,
your
well,
lies.
guys, I'm gonna go ahead and just get this wrapped up before we just get cut off. Thank you for joining,
All right.
And hopefully we can get this out there in the next couple of days. And thank you for joining us for the first ever Titans Ever On podcast. Hopefully there'll be more of these. Take it easy, guys.
All right. See you.
Tell the families hi.
Will do.